Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jason Martinez with Eduphoria. Got Jenny Strock with me, one of our wear trainers, and also Joel and Paige are also in the background with us, helping answer questions. Glad for you all to be able to join us today, either live or those of you that are going to watch on the webinar on the recording. And speaking of that, just to reiterate before anybody asks that question, all of our webinars are recorded. If you registered for the webinar, you will receive an email that will have a link to the recording. We also post all of our recordings in our online help under our old trainings and webinars. There's a whole section of stuff in there. So if you want to go back and review webinars and that we've done in the past, those are there as well. And so like always, the webinars will be recorded. Also, as always, if you've been in our webinars before, there is a questions section as part of the GoToWebinar control panel. If you have a question that comes up during the webinar, you are muted and can't ask that audibly, but you can ask a question through that box, the questions box. Please type that in there. If it's a question that that we determine has broad appeal or we want to interrupt and talk about that question because it's on topic, then I'll do that. I'll jump in with Jenny and maybe every once in a while address a few questions that might come in. But other than that, those of us in the background will be answering those questions via text, just typing them responses back to you. And sometimes we'll just respond individually. Sometimes we'll respond to the whole crowd, just depending on the question and the answer. Also, we wanted to go ahead and talk about our upcoming opportunities for training. This year, we are, as a team, kind of going out to the masses. And so historically, we've done trainings at districts, that hire us to come out there. We also, obviously, for the last several years with our partnership with the Region Centers, have had Region Center events. And the Region Center events are still going to be happening. But those are different than trainings. And so the events are typically kind of show and tell, 45-minute mini sessions and stuff like that, which are still valuable and we're still going to do, but definitely want to differentiate between what this roadshow is. When we come to a training, especially the topics that are going to be covered in training, in these roadshow trainings, these are like half-day sessions. And so it is a full hands-on, bring your laptop with you, get down to the nitty-gritty work on trainings. And so these trainings are both for teachers and administrators. There are different sessions that are aimed at either one, and both in all three of our instructional applications that we're going to cover. So there's going to be aware sessions, there's going to be strive sessions, and there's going to be forethought sessions for both administrators and teachers. So these are the upcoming dates. You see there the URL to the site where you can go in and find some more information and then register and buy tickets to those. There is a cost for these. It's $100 for the entire day, $50 for each session, half-day session. We will provide lunch for those sessions if you're there for the whole day. But we really are excited about the opportunity to get out and do some full trainings with more people. We as a team really like to get out there and help folks. Our products are great products, but we do know that you have to know how to use them, and we're just trying to find new ways to get out there and help. And so this is something that we came up with as a team this year, and we're excited about starting it off. And so please look into that. Contact anybody within your district. Send out an all-staff email. Notify people that there is an opportunity that they can come individually to these roadshows. We also are taking several different types of payment. So if you want to individually pay, we're taking credit card payments. It's actually going through Eventbrite. Any of you have ever gone to an event with Eventbrite? But we also are going to accept, or we do accept PO payments for those of you that are, want to pay for a group of people from a particular district or whatever. So a lot of information there. Go to that web address there, that URL, and hopefully we'll see you guys at one of those road shows coming up here in the fall. Without any other delay, I'm going to switch it over to Jenny here, and Jenny's going to take us through the teacher training part of Aware.
How are y'all? I always expect to get some kind of answer back when I ask that. I can't hear anything y'all are saying, just so you know. Also, Jason already covered this, the questions area. Just want to make sure everybody saw it. It's right here in your control panel. There's a question section. That's where you can go in and type your questions. We'll reply with an answer. best way to get your questions answered. We're going to cover, really, when we say back to the basics, these are truly the basic things teachers need to know. We're going to start with the assessment piece, and we're going to kind of go over the new layout. And then I want to talk a little bit about item bank searches and how that works. We've had some tickets on that in the last couple of weeks, so we want to make sure everybody's clear on that. Your test has to be in pending status in order to make any changes on it. I just built a teacher test here, started a teacher test. It is in pending status. If this little plus sign right here is grayed out, you cannot add questions or make changes to the test. Most likely that's because the test has been moved to active status. Once you move it to pending status, this should turn blue and you should be able to make changes again. If this stays gray, it could be that you have generated answer docs, and you would go here to the administration tab and delete any answer sheets that have been generated, and that will take you back to this blue plus sign. So just a general overview of the layout here on the new one. You get your test title here. This little window pane is new. It kind of replaced those tabs that used to run across the top in the old assessment builder. So you get your test title here, total number of questions, your DOK, so the depth of knowledge for the questions that you've added, how many questions you've added for each standard, and then the types of questions that you've added to your test. Down here, you could edit your test title. This is where your subject area is applied. Always double check that. In the past, we've had issues where tests would all, even if you said it was a math test, sometimes it would switch to ELA or it would switch grade level. So always kind of double check this and make sure it still says what you want it to be. This is a 6th grade math test. Make sure it's, says 6th grade math. This is also where you can apply courses and you can add additional courses to the assessment. So if this is the beginning of the year and I want to kind of vertically align some 5th grade, TEKS, some questions on there from 5th grade TEKS, I could go in and add 5th grade and add some 5th grade questions if I wanted to, especially those science courses where they're tested on, multiple grade levels on the STAR. You would want to add additional courses to do that. And this is also where you can put your performance levels in. So adjust your performance levels. We've kept the instruction panel for students. If you type in this, people don't use this a lot. It's actually pretty neat, especially if you know you're going to be out on the day a test is going to be given. You can type instructions for your students, and it will print those on a sheet of paper that is part of the test booklet, which is pretty neat. And then also if you want to go and delete, you can delete your assessment there. So alternate lettering is just the ABCD, ABCD, or ABCD, FGHJ option. So you can turn on or off. It defaults to ABCD, FGHJ. You can turn it off by clicking that, and then it will be an ABCD, ABCD type test. So to add questions to your test, you're going to click this blue plus sign. And then to add a blank item, in other words, an item that you're going to type, or maybe just an item for a test key, you would use this option. For anything from an item bank, you're going to use this option. This right here, the Select All Standards, was added late last year. What that is for is if I know I am looking for all like STAR released questions, or all, if I'm looking for TEKS resource unit questions, that kind of thing. If I know I'm building a test with all, TRS questions or STAR questions, I could actually say select all standards here. And it's going to pull up, I think it pulls up 75. So it's certainly not all of the STAR released questions or all of the TRS questions, but from there I can use this search bar to filter. So I could go here and say, well, I'm going to look at just STAR released questions. Or I'm going to look at, just TRS questions, but I can type in keywords here. So Unit 1, 2016, whatever the filter might be. I can type those in, and it will give me, this is how, the search bar used to be at the top, but this is where it is now. So that's pretty neat. If I am looking for items, that are assigned to a particular learning standard, I can just select the learning standard. From there, I could filter by item type. I could filter by item bank. I can filter by DOK or depth of knowledge as well.
Hey
So
Jenny,
yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm going to break in real fast before we get any more of these questions because it's a good question.
yeah,
Since you said star release, the question came in about the 2019, and
yeah.
so as you guys know, the 2019 test was not officially released. But obviously, if you have any kids, then you can go into the parent portal and you can see individual question items and not only the questions but the answer and all kinds of other things as well. Our friends at Region 10 have volunteered to use their connections of people that have access to the portal to put those items into the item bank. And so, although we will not be having the normal copy a quick test key of a star release test where you just get the whole T because that key was not released. Um, those items will be added to the bank, and so they will be added. I don't have a date for that, but yes, they will be added. But they're having to add those kind of one at a time through the portal, as you guys know. All right, Jenny.
Okay. So something else I want to show you is the resources tab. In order to do that, we don't have a lot of resources for math. I'm going to add, this wouldn't make any sense, but I'm going to go ahead and add like a ELA course or even a science course to this. So we'll just do a ELA. So social studies, ELA, and science all have resource type questions, so reading passages or images. What's really cool is I used to be a science teacher, and in the past, if I had like an atomic model, a picture of an atomic model, I would just add the questions one at a time, and that same picture or image may be on my test 5 times because there were 5 different questions using the same image. Where now I can actually look under the resources tab and I can look at the resources and then filter by learning standard. So that's pretty cool. This pulls up all the resources for the course. Right now there's 52 ELA, 6th grade ELA reading passages or resources. And you can open them up and look at all of the questions tied to that resource. I could also go down here and filter by standard. So if I was in science or social studies, I could go down here and say, I want to look for resources with a question tied to them under that learning standard. For ELA, I could also filter by, genre or lexile or word count, which is pretty cool. I think this is a great way to build those tests. In the past, you had to kind of go to the questions tab and then go to the resources tab and add the resources and then add the questions, and it was a multi-step process, and now this has kind of simplified this process. And again, for science and social studies, you might want to always check that resources tab, because if you have an atomic model that has, say, 10 different questions tied to it, it'll put the image on the test once instead of every time you've added a question tied to that image. So that's pretty neat. Any questions about the resources tab or questions tab or the difference between those, Jason?
No, we have, like I mentioned, we have a lot of questions coming in.
Okay.
And that's great. We'll try to answer them. But
Okay.
I'll just interrupt if needed be. But right now, I think we're okay for now.
Okay. Okay. All right. So once you have built your assessment, you have your assessment built, you can look at the layout view. This is, to my knowledge, not complete. It's not the way it's going to be when this is all finished, but it's getting further along. This is where you can choose your booklet style. So elementary prints larger than secondary, or intermediate. And then this is where you actually go to print your test booklets. You do have some options to make questions full width versus half width. You can insert page breaks. You can insert the number of lines or spaces you want between questions. And so there are some things you can do there. And I think this is only going to get better as this gets built out. We're going to have additional font options and those kind of things on this page as well at some point. So that's pretty cool. This, in other words, gives you an idea of how it's going to look when it's printed. I know we all felt the pain in the past where you couldn't see the test booklet until you generated a PDF, and then you would have like a whole blank page with one question and then 6 questions on the next page, and there really wasn't any rhyme or reason to it. And so this kind of allows you to see it before it prints. The next tab here is the test key tab. So this is where you can go in and look at those score ranges. I would notice right off that I need to adjust some score ranges here on these constructed response questions. These came straight from an item bank, but as you can see, the score range is a 1 to 4. We always want to start our score range with a 0 because you want to be able to give no credit where kids didn't answer any part of it completely or didn't answer the question. So you're going to want to adjust your score range, item weight, and standards. You can do all that from here. So just by clicking this edit button and again adjusting your range and then clicking save. And so this is a great way to take a look at that. And on the administrations tab here, this is where you can turn your calculator off or on for online testing. If you're going to use this as online testing, you can copy your student URL, log in. And also this is where teacher test, you would go in and share this with your team. So if I wanted to elevate this test from a teacher test to a team test, that is done under the administrations tab right here. This is also where I go to rescore now. So if I've scanned my answer docs and I notice that 99% of my kids missed a question, I went in and looked and the key had the wrong answer. I could go to the layout view here, the key view here, change the answer, and then rescore my answer docs. That's where that's done now. This is also where I delete answer sheets. So again, I kind of showed this in the beginning, but if you generated answer sheets and then you wanted to edit the test, you would have to go and delete those before you could make any changes to the test. That's where that's done here. And then clear answer sheets is what we'd use for online testing. So to clear answers for a student's test that they're taking online, that would be done here. I could also send a copy of the test. The biggest difference between these two is that this generates data based on all the teachers who administer the assessment. The share a copy means I've just handed them a copy. It's not a team test. It's going to generate data just based on individual teachers, not as part of a teacher team. And so also they can't edit your version of the test and you can't edit theirs. Here with the team test, everybody who's on the team has editing rights to the test. So big difference there. This also basically elevates this to a local or campus level assessment where everybody can see the data. And this, if I just send them a copy or administer this just as a team test, only the teacher can see the data for that test. So that's kind of the biggest difference. So, all right, we are going to move out of assessment into the analyze tab. So all of that again is under the assessments tab. Just real quickly, just because we did say this was basics, I do want to show how to find test. If I am a teacher and I just have teacher test, if I had team test as well, I would have a category for team test. But for right here, I just have a teacher test. I'm going to go in and drill down to find my test. They're either pending or active or archived if I've archived assessment somewhere, but right now I'm just pending and active. And so basically it's just a drill down process to find my assessments. To print my answer docs for a test that I have created, that's actually done under the Analyze tab. So I've built my test, it's all good, it's ready to go. I would go here to the Analyze tab and click on Tests Available. And that is where I can go in and print answer docs, enter answers, and also do the online test proctoring. So this has changed a little bit from last year. When I click on Tests Available, my test types, they used to be listed horizontally across the top of the screen. Now they're listed vertically. So again, if I have teacher test, team test, campus or local assessments, and district assessments, all those types will be listed vertically here. This is where I would go to print answer docs or to enter answers. So if I want to enter the answers for a short answer question, I could go there and I could go in and score their written response questions right there. So this screen itself hasn't changed, but kind of how I accessed it did.
Okay, Jenny, one more interruption here. This is just a good thing to go back over all the time. So once again, for those of you that have been using us for a while, so we've had teacher tests and school tests and district tests for a while.
Mm-hmm.
A couple years ago, we had a team test. The main reason we had a team test is for two main reasons. One, we're working on teaming and going to build out teaming through forethought and other stuff more down the road. But most importantly, concerning aware in the short term, it was to make it to where a teacher level built test could be seen by administrators or anybody else. Because right now, if you were to build a teacher test as a teacher and give it to your students as a teacher test, you're the only person that can see that data. But if you were to move that test prior to administration of the test, if you were to make that test a team test, even if it's only a team of one, then that team test data is shown exactly like campus data is shown. So you see Jenny showing right there, share with the team. And so if you have a team, you'd have to have a team. And that's okay. But
Right.
there'd be lists of the teams that you are a member of right there on Jenny's screen as you're seeing. And you just pick the test type and you're going to convert that test to a team test. When you do that, when the students take it, the data that gets collected from that test is no different from a exposure standpoint than what a campus or district test is. Any principal can see it. Obviously, a district administrator can see it. So that's kind of, you want to make sure. I mean, and I'm sure some of you have struggled with that to where teachers say, I'm building the test. How come you can't see the data? Well, if they're giving it as a teacher test, that's why. And so in the past, you could have, and you can still do this. Some districts still give their teachers access to build campus tests. That still works. And so it's a roles and rights issue. Either you give them access to build a campus test, or we train them to convert their test to a team test prior to giving it. And then once they give it then as a team test, the data can be seen just like a campus test. All right, thanks.
Okay. Yep. And so now I've converted, I created a team. I mean, just that fast, created a team. And then I converted that test to a team test. So now that test that I just built, instead of being filed up here under my teacher test, is going to be filed here under team test. When you do convert it to a team test, it automatically assigns the test to any students rostered to anybody on the team. So that's how that works. Your administrators do not need to be part of the team, only teachers who are going to administer the test. So just to clarify that. Then when I go to the Analyze tab, Test Available, back here, I can see my test types. This is where I would enter answers, print answer docs. This has changed just a little bit, download and print answer docs. Again, they just generate as a PDF, one per student. And then online test proctoring. So if I was going to administer the test online, and we're going to do more in-depth webinars over all of this later on throughout the year once a few more of the features come out. But if I'm going to administer the test online, I have to turn on online test proctoring. Once I've turned it on, this turns red. Then I can go here to this second tab, online test proctoring, and I can turn the test on for one or more students. So I can turn it on for a whole class and then turn it off for certain students. But I can kind of see, again, where students are in their progress on taking the test. Once I have assigned it, I would just push this play button. Essentially, it turns the test on for that class period or for the student selected in that class period. So that was kind of a fast and furious overview of online test proctoring, but that's basically how it works. Again, that's done under the Analyze tab and Tests Available. So not under the Assessment tab, but under the Analyze tab. So now that we're on the Analyze tab, we're going to kind of look at data. As a teacher, you can view data by class period, or you can view data for all of my students. I'm just going to look at the all of my students option here. So I'm going to drill down, and again, this functions the same way. I could search for a particular test up here in the search bar, or if I know what test type it is, I'm just going to drill down to a particular test. It defaults to the individual student view right here. Move this control out of the way. If I want to view the summary data for the district, I can do that on this globe. So again, this is how all students in the district performed. This is how all students on my campus performed. This would be, depending on the configurations at your district, when you click on this teacher summary, it's either just going to show me personally, which I'm logged in as teacher one, or it's going to show how all the summary data for all teachers on my campus. Again, that's a district level configuration that decides whether you see your own or you see the summary data for other teachers. This one's set up where I could see the summary data for all the teachers on my campus. Yours may not. Yours may just show you. The next one is by class period or section summary. So first period, fourth period, all the way down to eighth period, I can see how students performed by class period. And then, of course, the individual student summary. So when I'm in this individual student summary, or really any of these, I can click on a column header and it will sort low to high and then high to low. So again, I just clicked on it and it sorted it. So I can pull my, low performers to the top of my view, or I can sort high to low and pull the high performers to the top of my view. If I want to view an individual student profile, there's a couple of ways I can do that. One is that if I'm in this data view, I can double click on this student's name and it will take me to that student's individual profile. So it's going to take me to the test and scores page. It's going to take me to the summary for the assessment that I was on in that data view. It shows me how they performed within reporting categories compared to other students on their campus or in their district, how they performed within learning standards and reporting categories, and how they answered individual questions. If I want to see a whole assessment history for that student, I can click on Show All Tests, and it will take me to an assessment history. I can see how they've performed historically on assessments. Again, they're in here by test type, so district-based assessments, campus-based assessments, STAR test, and then they've got the interim assessments uploaded as well. If I want to see more detail about their performance on an individual assessment, I can click on the little icon next to that assessment, and again, it's going to show me how they performed within, their learning standards and reporting categories and answered individual questions. So also along here in the individual student profile, just kind of quickly go over these things. You have just a general tab. It just gives the general information, their class schedule, any special populations or programs that the student is a part of. This is also where teachers can reset an online password. So if you are using online testing and a student says, I can't remember my password, you can find that student's profile and click reset password and just reset it. This is where any student forms would be. So if your campus uses student forms, you can attach forms here. So you can add forms to student profiles. Let's say I want to refer the student for RTI. I could certainly go in and add those forms to that student. I can go in and view or fill out forms. So I would need to click view to go in and fill out the student forms or edit the student forms in some way, and then mark it as updated once I've updated the form. But again, all of those are under the Forms tab. This is also where I can attach documents. So we have some districts who attach their TELPAS writing samples here. So every student does a writing sample every year during the TELPAS writing time. So we have districts who attach that writing sample for both their TELPAS and non-TELPAS students right here. So those are filed, the documents are filed within the year they were attached. It's pretty neat to go back and look at, historically their writing samples there. The journal here is where I can go in and make a note of emails or phone calls or any kind of, if I kept the student after for detention. Yours may look different. When you click on the action items, there are some default items, and then you can also edit, you can customize these items. And so yours might look different when you click on the action items. But let's say I wanted to go in and I gave the student detention, I could put a date in and put comments in on why the student was held over for detention. Or let's say I emailed parents. I could, add that email, copy and paste the email in here, just make a note that I made a phone call. So we do get the question, can I as a teacher print a list of all the phone calls I've made all year to all students? At this point, no. You can print the list for each individual student. So if I had made 4, phone calls home to Sean's parents, I could print all 4 of Sean's at once, but I can't print all of them that I've made for all students. I believe that ability is eventually coming. It's not here now. So if you're required to make so many phone calls, I would still recommend you keep a call log for now, because you would have to go into each individual profile and print their profile. You couldn't print a list for you as a teacher, so just kind of know that. You as a teacher, unless you're given additional rights and aware, you can view what you enter, but know that admin can view what everybody enters. So, that's good, because if a student is called into the assistant principal's office and they can look on their profile and say, well, you've had several emails and phone calls home and you've been kept for detention by more than just the teacher who did the report. So that's pretty neat too, that it kind of keeps a list of all of those things. And then also rewards, you can put in there, good behaviors. If you use our inventory system, any items that are checked out to the students would be listed here. So that's what that tab is right there. So again, I told you there are a couple of ways that you could find students. We found this student by, again, double clicking on his name, or that student's name in the data view that we were in. The other way that you can find students is you click on this students tab right here and you actually search for student's name. So if I just start typing in a student name and hit enter, well, there's no Smiths, I could actually find students by, again, typing in their name and hitting enter. It is a little confusing because when I start to type in there, like I was typing in Sean, it pulls up grades, 2nd and 7th. With the S, you can see all the forms, programs. So I could search for students by, grade level or any of these things right here. But the simplest way, if I'm looking for a particular student, is I just type in all or part of their name and hit enter, and it will pull up that particular student. So again, that's probably the easiest way. If I know I'm going to enter a journal action or add a form to Sean, then I'm going to just type in Sean's name and hit enter. All right, so let's go back to the Analyze tab. We're going to go over a couple of things on quick views. And again, I'm just drilling down to find my assessment. Once I open my assessment, again, quickly, this is a district summary, campus summary, teacher summary, class period summary, and then individual student performance on a test. If I, as a teacher, wanted to view particularly like a specific demographic of students, so I had a ticket earlier today and they wanted to know how their Asian students performed, I could actually just double click on that demographic and it would pull up all the students who meet that demographic, so it will filter for you that way, which is pretty neat. And again, if I want to print any of these data views, I can export to Excel or print to PDF. So when I click on this quick view, we call this the quick view drop down right here. And this is where I can go in and apply filters to my data. So the first 4 that you see here, student scores all the way down to student individual responses, those are defaulted into everybody's system. So everybody who has Eduphoria or has Aware has the ability to filter by, again, overall student scores, student reporting category breakdown, student learning standard breakdown. Learning standard breakdown, I like to view this as part of the starting place for data analysis. So if I am viewing this at my campus, this is again kind of just a starting place. We used to think of learning standard analysis as being kind of the end all be all. What we've learned through trial and error is that it can't be the stopping point for your data analysis. It has to be just the starting place. So from here, I can kind of identify learning standards that gave my students trouble. But beyond that, I'm going to want to look at individual questions within those learning standards to see where the gap is. Because we know one learning standard may test, 5 or 6 or 8 or 9 different skills. So one kind of quick thing I want to show you, if you, I know y'all have all probably tried to do this. If you try to print this to a PDF from here, this is what it looks like. I mean, it's like impossible to read. I can flip it though and make all of these columns rows, and then it's much easier to see when I print it. So that's just kind of a quick tip. So if you're having trouble printing one, just know you can flip it and then it will print. Again, much better, much easier to read. So know that's there, that's an option there. The next, again, we had student scores, reporting category breakdown, learning standard breakdown. The next one is the student individual responses. So this kind of tells me, again, how each student answered each question. And then it will also tell me how my students or how all students on the campus answered each question. So I can start to really look for some patterns here. If you look at number 4, there was a clear distractor. Really, you had, actually, this is probably just a case of students guessing. They're kind of equally divided among more than 2 or 3 answer choices. Know that if you have any data down here in this bottom row, next to the star, it means students didn't answer that question. So this was a star test and we had students skipping questions on the star test, which is a little bit heartbreaking because they're not going to get it right. I mean, at least guess, there's no way to get it right if you skip it. So anyway, I can kind of look at the percentage of students who chose each answer choice. The correct answer is in green and the other answer choices are in red. And it tells me the percentage of students who picked each one. That's what that is. And then anything beyond those first 4 are views that your district has built for you. And as a teacher, you don't have the capability of building these and sharing these in this list, but your administrators do. And so there's some pretty cool stuff in here, like test correction strips. This would be, the question numbers that they missed and the answer choice that they chose. That's one of them that I really like. I like this SE breakdown by question number. So this kind of gives me a breakdown of within the SE, how did they answer questions. So all 3 of these are the same SE, and I can really see that my biggest performance gap is question number 30. So they did fairly well in 12 and 18, but they really bombed number 30. So I definitely want to know what number 30 is and how, kind of think about how I could teach that differently this year or address that differently because there was a gap for my kiddos there. And so I like that one. Anything, like I said, beyond the first 4 is something that your district has built for you. So just know that that capability is there. If you'd like to look at data in a particular way and you don't have we call the edit button right here, it doesn't say edit here, know that somebody on your campus or at your district does, and you can request, that they build custom views for you, and then they can ask us for help if they need that. That's what we do. So, Jason, how are we doing on time or on questions?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and apologize for people. There's some people that are referencing some of the stuff that you are saying in their questions, and I'm not getting it because I'm constantly
Oh,
typing. And
okay.
so I apologize to those of you that you've said, well, what did she mean by that? And I missed it because I was typing on a question. We've got a lot of questions. I don't know how many we've
Okay.
already answered, but
Okay.
there's a whole bunch. But y'all, if you still have some, I'm kind of catching up. But if you still have some, I'm going to continue to answer those. But as of now, don't know that there's anything necessarily that needs to be done verbally.
Okay. Okay. Great. I apologize. I can't see the questions while I'm presenting, so this is one of the
Yeah,
hard.
I told Jenny to go ahead and we had just take it in the background because we knew that there would be there's typically a lot of questions that come in on topics that we expect, and there are a lot coming in. And so
Right.
as you're presenting, if it's like popping up beside you, it can be distracting. And so,
Yeah.
as you can tell, I was distracted because I'm answering questions. So, if you have questions, continue to type them in and we'll get to them as soon as we can.
Okay. Great. Great. Um, Well, that's pretty much an overview of what we kind of talked about in the finding students and student profile, drilling down levels, sorting, and quick views. Again, I know there's probably a million questions. This is the kind, so let me just give a shout out to the roadshow, because if you come to the roadshow, you'll get 3.5 hours essentially of this kind of training. This is, generally this would take us, we would spend a lot more time because the questions that you're asking in there, we would be answering live. And so you wouldn't be sitting there wondering what I meant because I could answer your question. So just kind of know that coming to the roadshow, again, it's this kind of click training. This is what this button does. This was what this does is, again, you get 3.5 hours of that. And like I said, we have teacher sessions all the way up to the person who manages Eduphoria for your district type sessions. And so I definitely recommend that. It's affordable. If you can get away for a half day for $50, you can come and get a 3.5 hour session on building tests alone. If you get away for a full day, you could do building test and analysis in the afternoon, which would be really nice to do. Basically what we would charge, a couple of $1,000 to do if we came out to your district, you're going to get it for $100. So
Okay, I do have one good question here that could
okay.
help clarify for some. People are asking, they saw some different data views in your drop down
Yes.
than what the top four are, and
Yep.
and this is kind of multifaceted answer to the question here. So every administrator, campus level or district level within your district has the ability to customize data in Aware, and then build and share those data views to the staff. So Jenny talked about those first four quick views that we have that everybody has, and so all district staff have, all teachers have. Beyond that, technically, every district, and within every district, every administrator can have a different number and type and different named and do different things. Those custom
Mm-hmm.
data views in Aware. Now, obviously, when we go do training, like when we're going to do a training at the roadshow on Aware data analysis for admins, we're going to absolutely cover that and talk about how to build those things and share with staff. But yes, we do get questions from people all the time on, can we have this or whatever. And as of this moment, teachers without additional access do not have the ability to build those. That might be changing down the road in some way. Now, don't start asking questions when, why, how, I don't know. But as of right now, if your district if your district doesn't have additional things, especially beyond the first four, or if you're looking at, or if you're needing particular data that the data views in your dropdown as a teacher do not give you, if you would contact somebody at your campus or your district, if they need help on how to do that, have them contact our training team, and we would be happy to help them. Custom data in Aware is really the power of Aware. It's where Aware beats everything else. That you can get any data you want anytime, no matter what. But obviously, someone has to have that knowledge, and then therefore, as a teacher, someone has to share that down with you. So we would be happy, excited
Yeah.
to do that. And so if you would have whoever your Eduforian is at your campus or district reach out if they're not sure how to do it, Jenny or I or someone else would be absolutely happy to do that.
Absolutely. And I showed y'all a couple of them. I probably know everybody's wanting those test correction strips. That's absolutely a teacher favorite. It kind of solves the mystery of how do I address test corrections without marking it something on everybody's test booklet or giving all the answers out loud. That's why we built it. I clicked on, you could get to this by clicking help in any application. It's going to take you to a page like this. You would select Aware, and though two of the data views I showed you plus more, see this Aware data view recipe cards and tips. We do these every year before the Texas Assessment Conference. I haven't started working on this year's. I got to get going on that. But those recipes for some of those views that I showed today are in the 2018 ones. There's also some in 2017. So if you go down, the tutoring strips are the test correction strips. This shows exactly how they would build it, what they would need to build it. If they need help beyond this, they can certainly reach out to us, but know that we do have some of these recipes. In fact, the two that I showed you today, they're actually the recipes for them are right here. And so again, they could go in and build those. You could show them they're in that help section. And then there's also how to share it with you and all that in there. But again, if they need help, they can always email training@eduphoria.net or support@eduphoria.net, and get that information on how to do that. For those of y'all, since we've got a little bit more time, for those of y'all who have, and I'm not even sure, I don't even have it on my demo account, the lead forward reports, they would be under the reports tab. Let me change to another demo. And I'll show you that. Okay, so for districts who subscribe to the Lead Forward add-on, everybody, whether you get the Lead Forward reports or not, you can get these reports at the top. The incorrect responses report just basically gives me a, let me select a test. It gives me a breakdown of how kids, who missed what question on a test. But it doesn't list it the way it was listed a while ago. It lists the name of the student who missed each question. Still a good report. So there we go. And I can organize it by question number. I can organize it by learning standard or reporting category, but it's going to list the kids who missed each question. Again, those reports, we call them canned reports. They're under the reports tab. The student test summary report, I'll pull one up and show it to you.
Yeah, this is basically when you go to the students test and scores tab, and you double click on a test. This is the report that Mass does that. So we get teachers that ask this question all the time, and so
yes, this is how it would print. Yes, the test and scores tab under the student profile.
Correct.
So it would show, it would print that for all the students in that class period. So you could essentially hand these back to the kiddos too. It does give the correct answer, though, I believe, doesn't it, Jason, at the bottom?
Yeah, yes.
So if they missed an answer, it does show the correct answer as well.
In brackets, yeah, it puts the correct answer. They should have bubbled in brackets.
So before test corrections, not recommended, but after test.
So while we're going on here, and this is generating, I'm going to ask Jenny that as soon as she can just talk about the other reports real quick, and then we're going to go ahead and stop the recording. And so that the recording doesn't get all jumbled of the video, because we have a lot of people that have registered for the webinar that are going to be watching the recording. And so we're going to stop the recording here in just a minute after she references some more of these, and then I'm going to go back and read through all of the questions and make sure that we have them all answered, at least as much as I can tell. And then we'll, and like Jenny said, we're going to be doing. We had definitely some more questions about online testing. Obviously, our new online testing environment is just coming out. Obviously, there's some excitement about that, and testing supports down in the future, and the proctoring and stuff. And so we're going to be definitely doing some aware specific webinars on the test authoring, online testing. We're showing the interface for students and stuff like that in the near future. And so this is just a one time. It doesn't mean this is the only time. And so those of you that are just joining and watching a webinar for maybe the first time or first couple of times, this is something that we try to do throughout the year. Obviously, if you're teaching, you can't watch it, but you can always watch the recording. So I continue to encourage you to watch our social media and email announcements for other webinars, because we will do others also. All right, Jenny, go ahead, and then we'll.
Sure, for sure. So if your district does subscribe to the Lead Forward module, then you get things like the leadership report card and teacher learning reports. It's pretty neat. I want to pull up an ELA one. As you know, ELA got new TEKS this year, and so it pulls a little different. If you've pulled it in the past, you kind of know what it looked like. And actually on this demo site, I don't know that it'll pull it all, just because it's an old test. In fact, I'm a little afraid it won't. I don't have it on my new demo site.
Let me go ahead and play. I meant to talk about one thing.
Okay.
Back to online testing, because we've had probably 10 questions on this. Student passwords for online testings are set. The student logs in with the student ID. So whatever the lunch number is, 5-6 digits usually. That's their login, like username is their ID. The password is set by the district, and so there are multiple ways within Eduphoria to either import that password, if they already have a password. A lot of times at the elementary, it's young students. We just set it as the mascot of the campus or something like that. It could just be mass set for the entire campus, but that can, and then each individual teacher could reset it probably on the students. Like Jenny said a while ago, on the individual student profile. However, you wouldn't want to do every student individually, and so they do have to be set. So that's kind of the only prerequisite of doing online testing with Eduphoria, with Aware. Every test you build can be done as an online test. You don't have to build it a special way. However, online testing can only be done, obviously, if students can log in. And so the URL is always the same URL for every district. And so there's one district URL for online testing, but students do have to know how to log in, and they'll use their ID number and then whatever password is set for them. And so the password does have to be set. And so if you're not the person that has the district access to do that, if you would contact them, and once again have them contact us if they're not sure how to do that, we'd be glad to show them. It's not difficult at all. It just has to be done so that they can log in.
Yeah, and we again, I'm going to plug the roadshow again. That's the kind of thing we will cover in the in the roadshow, and then also in future webinars on online testing. We just didn't have time to do that and all of this today. So if I go into the ELA leadership report card, it doesn't pull. You used to get all the sheets at the bottom with all of their clusters, their TEKS clusters, and the summary for the TEKS clusters. It doesn't do, or subclusters, it doesn't do that right now for the old SEs. What it does do is it gives you kind of a side-by-side comparison. So what the new SE is that is similar to the old SE and how the data would look. So that's, I think, very useful information to have. Just know that it pulls a little differently. We've already gotten questions on it, but that's how it pulls now. So again, old versus new. All of the other ones would still pull with the TEKS clusters. TEKS scaffold is not going to work for ELA right now because again, there's only 1 year, or not even a year of assessment data, and so until we have multiple years of assessment data, your TEKS scaffold is not going to work for ELA. If you've ever pulled the campus quintile report, it doesn't pull names; it just pulls the percentages, so sort of your bell curve at the top. It's still used for data to have, so how does your bell curve look? But it doesn't pull student names because you don't have access to all students on the campus. If you pull your class quintile report, it will still group your students by performance into five groups. The subcluster intervention report was new last year. It's really cool. If I go in, I'm not sure if I have a test I can use. Sorry, I apologize. I don't test these very often on my demo account because we use, delete that one. We use people's sites when we do that. So I could put one or multiple tests in here. When I click show report, it's pretty cool. It will actually show me, it's not pulling up with student names right now, but you can see it pulls up the TEKS clusters or subclusters that Lead Forward creates, and it would list the name of the students who were in the got it category versus students who were in the not yet category. So students performing, I think, above 65% on average of those cluster that in that TEKS cluster would be in the got it, and then below would be in the not yet category. Pretty neat when you're giving your unit assessments. Pretty neat to do. Again, that was, I think it's, 65, above 65 or below 65%. And then also this teacher academic growth template is new for teachers this year. In the past, administrators could pull it, but teachers could not. This is only applicable for those subjects or grade levels that have a performance level, a progress measure. It's not going to pull on my system because again, it's based on old assessments. I don't have the 2019 data in here. But what it will do is it will show you last year's performance and this year's performance and include their progress in that view. So pretty neat. Take a look at it. If you've got the Lead Forward stuff, you can just go in here and play with these. They're pretty easy to read, but definitely check that out to see if you have the Lead Forward reports or not. So with all that said, I think we're just about done. Jason, anything else you can think of?
Yeah, no, I think that's good. Obviously, I mean, it, this is, I mean, our team here, our training team. We always know that every time we get access to more people to help and educate, we're educators too. I mean, I hope you could realize Jenny and I mean, Joel and Paige, we all came from a district, and we love to be able to share with folks. And as we share, people ask more questions. We want to share more. We want to share more. And so, more questions are coming in because of the things we're sharing, and it's great. But yeah, we'll do some follow up webinars. There are some Lead Forward specific things. I will say that we had a couple of questions to ask about Lead Forward. Lead Forward is just an add on license. If your district does not have it, they can contact sales at eduphoria.net and ask for a quote for pricing on the Lead Forward add-on. It truly is just a license add-on that
It
um,
is.
our,
Makes
our,
sense.
our yeah, our business office will just when y'all pay for it, you pay for it. The business office just turns it on, and then they're there.
It
And
can
it's
be done
obviously
by campus too. So
correct,
it's a
correct.
campus or a district license, and it's not terribly expensive either by campus. So
So yeah, so if you're definitely a Lead Forward district, which most are out there in Texas, then it might definitely be something that your campus or district might be interested in. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and stop the recording. We thank you all for attending. We'll be doing additional webinars all through the year, so keep looking out for those and register for those. And if you want to share this recording with others, you're welcome to do so as well. And don't forget about our roadshow, please. If it's not your, if you need training yourself because you're an expert, please share with those around you at your district or friends at other districts to give them an opportunity to come get some training that they may not have had that opportunity to get. Thank you guys. We'll talk to you again. I'm going to stay on for just a minute or two and answer a couple more questions, and then we're going to call it a day.